Looky here, it's the Pat and JT podcast.
Pat and JT podcast.
Is this our halfway point podcast?
I think officially. Somebody threw out there yesterday on, I think it was on our a text, 402-403-9478, that it's a leap year next year. So technically that we'd need
182
ish.
Or 183.
Right. So this is 183.
So we're definitely halfway.
I think halfway through this one, we're technically halfway.
But by the way, Rob Quillen's in the studio with us too, by the way, so feel free to chime in. We're trying to figure out our halfway point because we promised and we're getting there. One full year, every day, a podcast.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. No. So I think we're about halfway there.
We're halfway there. We are officially halfway.
Okay.
All the math nerds are happy now.
Okay, his microphone doesn't sound as loud as mine.
I know.
Trying to make sure we're taking care of
Let's see,
IT.
try that, Rob. Try that. Talk in there.
How about now?
A little bit closer there.
A bit closer?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't even. Never mind.
I know. Sorry I didn't introduce you, but
I don't know why it doesn't. Let me try this a little bit. Okay, now try that.
All right. How about now?
That's a little bit better.
All right.
There's a thing called gain. Apparently, you need to have that turned up.
that's our engineer.
Yep.
183 episodes in, huh?
Yeah, right? Isn't it amazing?
She doesn't know that none of them have actually been dropped.
How did we get
We've
this
never.
far?
These
What?
things, that stuff's not even plugged in.
No, it's not.
Oh my God.
quiet.
Craziness. Yeah, we get to every once in a while we have a guest come in. We love having guests come in. So whenever somebody has a time, absolutely appreciate it. And even more so, we haven't talked to you. It's been a while.
It
Since
has.
we had you. When's the last time? Was it when your book came? Oh,
No,
God, it was
when
after that.
Yeah, when we did. It was when the 9/11 ceremonies got moved to Memorial Park instead of Stinson Park.
That's right.
Yeah, that was the morning.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So if somebody doesn't know who Rob is,
Yeah.
what do you tell people?
I always tell them I'm an author, public speaker, and a guy that likes to make a lot of people's dreams come true.
Nice.
So that opens up a lot of comfort. That's a pretty broad statement.
Sure.
Yeah.
How many books have you written?
I've written 3.
And what are these books about?
So the first one is the one that most people know me by. It's called Why Wait, and it's about my personal 9/11 experience. The second one was I kind of co-wrote with another individual. It's kind of more of a fantasy type of deal. And then the third one, which is done, which if you ever write a book and you think you get all done with it, and you hand it over to the editor and like, hey, this is all done. This is perfect.
That's all I got.
And then a month later, they come back and they say, really, really nice try. If you could just rewrite the whole thing, that would be great.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it is. Because it's like handing somebody your baby and they're like,
you
your
put so
baby's
much work,
really
months.
ugly.
You got an ugly baby.
Yeah.
Months and months, and sometimes even years and
Yes.
years into books like that.
Yeah. So the third book, and I'll tell you the title. So the title of the book is here's a picture of me naked, and I don't care what you think about it.
Okay.
And on the cover is a beautiful woman who's covered everything up, but clearly she is naked. And it's about my upbringing. And I had a horrible upbringing. I had a horrible dad. To be honest with you, the only reason why I went to his funeral was to make sure that it was him in the box.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how
pretty
bad
intense.
he was. Yeah. So
Wow. Yeah. How long did it take for you to come to that moment where you say that out loud to anybody?
years. Yeah. Because I mean, you don't want to say. Nobody wants to say, "Hey, my dad was a huge drug user. My dad, physically abused my mom.
Right.
Or my dad left us.
Yeah.
2 or 3 times.
A lot of people keep that buried.
Yeah.
And they just hide it away.
It's
and
it's
deal with
hard,
it.
and you don't want to do that. You want to deal with it. You absolutely want to deal with it
Because they
So-
take responsibility.
absolutely.
They feel like ownership. That's on me.
Yeah,
that's part of me.
And
Ugh.
there was a lot of different things going on. I mean, including sexual abuse and things like that. And when you talk to people about it, people think that it's their fault. Anybody who's been a victim of either a sexual assault or rape or anything, they think it's their fault.
What could I have done differently?
Yeah, and I tell people, you didn't make that decision to have that happen to you. The other
Right.
person did. So what really kind of prompted it.
Is it is it sometimes they feel it's their fault for not telling someone else or telling someone or asking for help instead of just letting it go on?
Yeah, it's asking for help that I
They're
run.
afraid they'll, but then you have to deal with that. I'm the one that got him in trouble.
Yeah, no, but that's
You know what I mean? And you didn't.
It's no different than if you see somebody robbing a bank and you call 911. You didn't make that decision.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what really kind of prompted it is after I wrote Why Wait, the cool part about it is that my goal was growing up was to be a public speaker. Actually, I wanted to be a rock star, but
Hey, still on the stage.
I can't sing. I don't have the looks, and I can't play
Sometimes it
anything.
doesn't happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's okay.
yeah.
Still on stage.
I'm watching Bon Jovi on these videos when I'm in 8th grade. I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Right. Right.
I want to do that.
I don't look like him.
Unlimited supply of ladies' underpants thrown at
Exactly.
you constantly for the rest of your life.
So when the first book came out, I got contacted by some agents that said, hey, do you want to do some speaking on this? So I had to quickly learn how to become a public speaker, which I failed, I don't know how many times before I kind of dialed it in. But I really, once I got into it, I really like talking to kids. I love talking to all audiences, but let's be honest, when I'm talking to a group of 60-year-old insurance men, they say, great story, get standing ovation, but am I really shaping their lives?
Right.
As opposed, I'm talking to high school kids and college kids that, they say, hey, that really hit home with me. So as we got further past, each anniversary of 9/11, we're coming up on, 19, 20 years.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, I know. There's kids that don't even, it's a chapter in their history book.
Right.
You think back
crazy.
to when you were in school,
Yeah.
when you were studying, maybe it was the first Man to the Moon,
Yeah.
Man to the Moon,
Yeah.
or it was something else in the 70s, or it was JFK,
Right.
and it just seems so far away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far away.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It just happened. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's just a chapter in a book now.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
So as the kids got older, I was speaking to high school kids less and less and less, but I really wanted to come up with a topic to talk to kids. And like we were talking a few minutes ago, there are so many kids that maybe have that creepy uncle, or maybe, dad isn't the person, or there's some sort of skeleton that they aren't talking to anybody about because they don't think it's okay to talk about. So I wrote this book knowing that that's going to be my target audience, and to let them know it's okay. It's okay that those things happen to you. And the point of the title of the book is simply this. No matter what happened in your life, you can't change the past, right? But you can't hold on to that, and you can't let that control the rest of your life. The kind of the joke here is, how many times do we watch Live PD or Cops, and it's the drunk dad and the beat up mom and the daughter sitting there, and that's going to be that family's life. For
That's
the rest
always
of
going to
the
be
rest of
her
the-
story.
That's going to be her story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it is sad.
Yeah. So it can't control your future. And the point of it, especially when I'm talking to kids, is listen, you have to be so confident in yourself just because of who you are. Take a picture of yourself naked and show it to people, and I don't care what you think about it. And where that title kind of came from, I was doing an interview when the first book came out, and we were done with the interview, and this reporter, she goes, writing a book that shows a lot of emotions like mine did, she goes, it's really kind of like taking a picture of yourself naked and putting it on the internet. She goes, you're exposing yourself,
So, yeah, right.
your inner self to the whole
Right.
world. I'm like, when she said that, I was like, holy cow, that's really right. So I kind of spun it and turned it into a positive. So we are re-editing that book.
That's kind of interesting
cool.
too, though, is that once you do that, when you become vulnerable, all of a sudden you become much more powerful
Yes.
because you find out you're not alone.
You're not alone. That's exactly right.
That's the hard part, and it's also, I imagine, hard for a lot of kids or adults thinking of their childhood, because everybody says, you wouldn't be where you were if everything didn't happen the way it happened.
That's exactly right.
And if you're happy with where you are, you really don't want to give that person credit
No, not at all.
for doing anything for you.
That's exactly. Dak Shepard has a great podcast. I love Dak Shepard's
Yeah.
podcast, and
Yeah.
he said almost that exact same thing about a year ago, where he had a terrible father. I don't think it was the same situation, but it was just wasn't a
Yeah.
good guy, bad family, had
Yeah.
drugs and
Yep.
stuff. And he said, but looking back, I wouldn't change it for anything because that's made me who I am. Because if that didn't happen, I'd probably be doing something back in Ohio, and not where he is now.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. There's hey, there's a bird flying out the window. What does that mean? But everything, I believe
Right.
that everything happens for a reason. And there's life lessons around us all the time, right? And some people see those life lessons, and some people don't.
Yeah, you think back through your history of all the things that slightly changed your trajectory.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, if I hadn't met that person, I would not have taken that job.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been in that car wreck, because I wouldn't have been in that part of town.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like you can keep going back.
Absolutely.
Everything just kind of bends the
Right.
trail a little bit.
Absolutely, it does.
Puts you somewhere else.
Right. And sometimes makes you overthink things.
Oh, yeah.
That you do, because you think, well, if I, you start thinking about it too much.
And then you start putting it in the future, right?
Right.
Like, oh, wait a
Yeah, if
minute.
I do that,
How's this
yeah.
going to screw me over in 6 years?
Yeah.
I wonder-
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
What can you talk about your personal 9/11 story? I mean, I know you told us that story a number of years ago on the radio, but it's fascinating. This is your book.
Yeah,
Why Wait?
Why Wait? Yeah. So so the day before September 11th, the 10th of September, I was scheduled to go to New York City for some sales meetings for the company that I was at the time, and so how detailed do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
As much as you want.
Okay, so
You go and get it, Rob.
so I was supposed to fly from Lincoln to Chicago to JFK. I got kicked off my flight in Lincoln because the flight was oversold, and it was really oversold.
Right.
And
Side note: Lincoln is the cutest airport. It's adorable.
I love it.
you think so?
My wife and I love it. Yeah, it's like if you just walk right out to your car, you can unlock your car from the.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Winter, it's just the cutest.
I'll give you that.
Everybody parks at the door.
I love it. Gate one, yo.
Yeah, exactly. Just look for the big door.
That's right.
Where the airplane's at. That's your flight.
There you go. Right out there.
Totally.
So they kicked me off my flight in Lincoln because they determined that I was the last person to buy a flight for this buy a ticket for this flight.
I have a hard time believing that they were able to do that in
Come
that
on,
year.
you can't keep track of my luggage.
Did we all remember? Did we all remember 1999,
Yes.
December 31st, 1999?
Yes.
They thought all the computers were going to stop.
Everything was going to go.
I made a point
out.
to be in Phoenix on that night.
Why? Why Phoenix?
Well, I went to see the Judds. I kid you not, with my mom and a girlfriend.
yeah.
And it was on New Year's Eve. And I was like, well, if it's all going to crash, I want to be in Phoenix. Yeah. But I'd lived in Phoenix for a few years before that, so it was like going back. You know what I mean? But I was like, if you're going to be anywhere when everything goes to hell,
Somewhere warm.
I'm going to go to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah, so they kicked me off the flight because they said I was the last person to buy a ticket for the flight, and so they rerouted me from they ended up busing me to Omaha to catch my flight. So I'm now flying from Omaha to Denver to Newark, and so I get to the Denver International Airport. We get on the plane, and this is 2000 2001. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean flying an airplane with 50% empty seats was very common, if you remember. So. So we get on the plane. People were just kind of randomly sitting wherever they went. There was maybe 30 or 40 people getting on this plane.
I remember jumping seats, jumping aisles, so you could have three.
Absolutely, yeah.
Lay down.
Yeah. Oh, that was the best part.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes. So the guy ended up sitting next to me. Ended up being Jason Dahl, who the next day was the pilot of Flight 93 that crashed in the field in Pennsylvania.
This gives you chills every
Yeah.
time you hear that.
Yeah. And, I never talked to anybody on an airplane, ever. Especially, I do now, but back then, like I say during my speeches, I didn't care where you were going. This was my time. My phone wasn't ringing. My boss wasn't yelling at me. I didn't care where you were going.
Yeah.
But this guy was wearing a Jeff Gordon polo shirt, which is another odd thing because I never wear casual clothes on a business flight. I always wear a suit or at least business casual. Literally, the first thing he asked me was, "Do you work for Jeff Gordon?" And I remember thinking, this is a really odd first question to be asking somebody. But then I realized I was wearing this shirt. But he said, because my son and I are huge NASCAR fans and huge Jeff Gordon fans. So we just kept talking all the way through the flight. And for some reason, we got about halfway through the flight, and he felt very compelled to tell me a dream that he had for his 15-year-old son, which was to go to a NASCAR race and meet Jeff Gordon. And a few months before that, I was running a promotion in my territory. Basically, if you bought X number of dollars worth of software product from me, you would get X number of tickets to the very first NASCAR race at the Kansas Speedway. And I had 2 extra tickets. I couldn't get rid of them. Which, here's some more coincidences lining up, right?
Crazy.
So we ended up, I offered the tickets to him. He agreed. Obviously, I didn't have the tickets on me. We exchanged cell phone numbers and things like that. So we land in Newark, New Jersey at 10:30 at night, and we agreed that we would get home, or we'd touch base when we got home from our respective trips to start planning it. And never got that opportunity.
Wow.
How did you find out that he was the pilot of that plane?
People forget that we're so used to it now, but every news station, even sports station, they have the scrolling thing on the bottom. I don't know the technical term for it. It shows
Crawl.
That's it. Yeah, news, breaking news, or scores, or whatever. But that came from 9/11 because there were so many stories coming on that they were just rushing everything.
I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
It just seems like it's always been there.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
I think. I remember the only other time I remember seeing it was school closings.
Yes.
Started maybe in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
That they started doing the school closings. Yeah.
So it was the night of the 11th. And I didn't even, to be honest with you, I didn't even think about Jason because I'm 5 blocks from the Trade Center. You know,
You had other things on your mind right then.
I watched the second
That
plane.
had to just be terrifying.
It was. I'm not ashamed to admit this. That was the most terrifying day of my life. You know, I didn't know. I remember.
Were you there when? I mean, were you in the building when the planes hit? Or?
No, I was in a hotel about 5 blocks away, and they came in like a hotel server or banquet server or something like that. Came in and told us that there was some sort of plane crash at the World Trade Center buildings. So we stopped our meetings and
Go look.
I want to go look. And we stood there for a few minutes, and I actually went to go back into the lobby of the hotel to call home because the streets of New York City are always very loud, very busy, very hectic. But there were hundreds of people coming on the street just doing the same thing that we were doing, just looking. And so I turned to one of my buddies and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go back to the lobby of the hotel and call my family and let them know that it's close, but I'm in no danger at all." That's when the second plane came in and slammed into the tower. And it was, I never once thought the first plane was a terrorist attack at all.
My
never
goodness.
crossed my mind.
We had Katie Couric on.
Yeah.
Still
one of my
at the
favorite
radio
interviews.
station,
Yes.
right? And the radio station had it on the TV, but of course the sound was down. And then I saw, this. They were looking because they saw it go behind them because that's where their backdrop was the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And oh my God, a plane apparently something must have happened to the pilot or just an accident and it's terrible. And then the second one hit and you could just feel it's like my blood went cold.
Yeah, it was
just. Holy smoke!
It was incredibly terrifying, and
Do you still hear that sound?
I tell you, the sound that I hear is the most is in my head is the sound of the first tower falling. It was incredible.
I never even thought about that.
What if you can?
Yeah.
Describe what that sounded like. Like put words to that sound.
So I talk about it in my speech, and I talk about it sounded like 1,000 freight trains coming at you at 500 miles an hour, and the sound just got louder and louder and louder and louder.
Because when you're watching on TV, it looks like it's going in slow motion. But I'm sure when you're there, it was like did it look slow motion or did it look fast?
Oh no, it was really fast.
That's incredible. Have you ever been in a tornado?
Yeah.
That sound intent times 100.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because the sound when a tornado, and I've never been like smack dab in one.
Yeah.
Less than a mile away from me.
Yeah.
And you hear that everything just goes silent. And then you hear it coming. And I can't even imagine.
Yeah. It was.
Wow.
What triggers it more for me? Sometimes I smell something. Because I talk about, people ask like, what was it like being there? And I'm like, it was no different than what you saw on TV, except what you saw on TV from wherever you were watching it. Your body didn't feel the impact of the second plane coming in. Your ears didn't ring with pain. You couldn't smell jet fuel burning. You couldn't smell human flesh burning. The other thing I talk about is very early on the morning of September 11th. TV wasn't showing the people jump out of the buildings to take their own lives.
That took a while before that
Yeah.
was actually, I guess, really transmitted when anybody even would say it.
Yeah.
Because that was probably happening in the first tower,
absolutely.
before or when the second plane hit. I mean, it was already going on.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot, especially if I get off of a speech and I go back to the hotel room, go off the stage for a speech, and I go back to the hotel room, and I always recount my speech, but I always get lost sometimes. How bad was it inside the buildings? You're 90 floors up. You say, you know what?
I got to jump.
I'm jumping.
Yeah.
Either stay in here or jump.
Yeah.
You can't.
You choose jump.
Even imagine. You just hell. I mean,
What wasn't it? The first one was like the 82nd. When there's probably
83.
like 20 some floors above them.
Yeah.
That they weren't going down.
Yeah.
Unless they jumped.
But you know what? Not that I think about it a lot, but
But around the anniversary, I mean, anybody that even just sees that on TV go down that same road of how terrible was it inside that was their best option, and then you put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
And would you do that? How would that happen?
Yeah.
Like,
So I don't know if I think I would, because I think, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think the worst possible way to die would be burning to death. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And
I'm sure there's worse, but that's just mine.
Mine is drowning and burning.
Yeah.
It's like either where I can't breathe.
Yeah.
That scares you the most, and that way more than likely a lot of those people would have died from the smoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was in there, or the heat.
The heat.
Maybe before the fire got to them. It's
Yeah.
just
you
crazy.
would hope that the smoke.
You would hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
You would hope, absolutely.
So to answer your question, so I was busy that day, and there was no. I mean, like my cell phone wasn't working.
I'm sure they couldn't handle it.
No, it was everybody was on their cell phone. And what people don't realize is the government shut down all the landlines in the area for security reasons. So payphones weren't working. My phone in my hotel wasn't
Terrifying.
working. Yeah. So it was probably about 4:30 that afternoon when I was able to call home and let my family know that I was okay. And then we talked. My wife and I talked for a while, and then I told her, I said, there has to be a plan to get us out of here. There's no way they're going to keep us here, So I went down to the lobby of the hotel, and a bunch of my coworkers were there, and they were setting up at the bar, having some beers. And we were just having a couple of beers, and a good friend of mine, a coworker from Houston, Texas, was sitting across from me. And he goes, Robbie, he said, didn't you fly into Newark last night? I go, yeah, why? He goes, yeah, that plane that crashed in Pennsylvania took off out of Newark, was heading to San Francisco. And Jason Dahl, who I met the night before, already told me that he had the 8 o'clock flight from San Francisco.
So that's where you first kind of had the inkling that he was gone. Yeah,
that was, so I still had his business card in my wallet.
See, and even if you hadn't met him, just knowing that your plane was the one, that would be, right there in its own.
Well, that's when I asked my buddy, I said, say that again. And he said it again. He goes, for all you know, that was a plane you flew in on last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So I went up to my hotel room, and I was just staring at his card. And, I knew. I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, and I tell people, if you were flying on September 11th, at this point in the evening, the FAA grounded all the flights. So if you were flying on September 11th, you were either stuck in an airport, got lucky and got a hotel room, you got really lucky and got a rental car and you're driving home, or if you were flying on the 11th, there was a chance that you were involved in one of the 4 hijackings, right?
Yeah.
So Jason already told me they had the 8 o'clock flight. And I was sitting there in the hotel room, and it came across the bottom of the screen. It said that the plane that had crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, was United Airlines Flight 93. And it said piloted by Jason Dahl, and Leroy Horner was the co-pilot. So I knew before I even called, but it took me a long time to enter in his cell phone number into mine, and it took me even longer to hit the send button. But when I did, it went right to voicemail. So I knew right then. So it was that night.
Isn't it funny though that you needed to call? You know what I mean? It's like you just in case.
Just in case.
Just like at the end of Confronting OJ, that podcast we listened to, where people were calling Ron Goldman even after he was dead, just to hear his voice again. Just to confirm, and even saying, if you're okay, call me, knowing he wasn't okay. It's something they have to do.
There was no way I wasn't going to call.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then, how long were you stuck in New York?
So we were there for 2 or 3 days.
Did you ever think of getting a car, if you could, get a rental car and get out of there?
So this is where I'm going with that. So they were trying to get us to fly home, but nobody flew for a long time after 9/11. So I tried to get a rental car. Think about this. I'm in New York City, right? The closest rental car available to me was in Manchester, New Hampshire. Think about that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my travel department booked a hotel room for me up there, booked a flight for me, and booked a rental car for me just in case. Because if you remember, Manchester was the first airport that opened up in the United States.
I did not know that.
And the only thing that they were doing was letting U.S. citizens that were stuck in Canada get back to the United States.
Oh, sure.
So there was no outbound flights. It was just all inbound flights. So we're like, hey, that's the closest car. That's the airport it's looking like. And I'll never forget, I spent the night up there. This is probably 3 days after 9/11. And they booked the flight, but they didn't confirm the seat, right? Because they just didn't know, if anybody was flying. I'll never forget this. So Manchester Airport is probably a little bigger than the Lincoln Airport. Imagine going into the Lincoln Airport with 80,000 people, just standing there like, what do we do? I've stood in line for a couple hours.
Seriously, because the people come back from Canada.
Yeah, they're trying to.
There's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go.
What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
How big is Manchester, do you think? Do you think it's about the size of Lincoln?
I'm going to guess that's about
Maybe
right.
about that?
I could be way off on that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big town,
You're right. So you're coming back to the United States for what?
For what?
What are you going to do?
Welcome to Manchester.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we'll get you back to the
no
U.S.,
rental
but that's as far as we can take
Yeah.
it.
Right.
So
No, good luck.
I remember standing in line for like a couple hours, and the line never even moved. And finally, a United Airlines employee jumped up on the counter, and he didn't even have like a megaphone he just said, "We are not flying. We won't be flying anytime soon. You ain't got to go home. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here."
If that happened now, we're talking 19, 20 years after 9/11, people would be just going crazy.
Oh, they would lose their mind.
What was going on when he stood up and said that? Was it with what was going on? Did people freak out, or did they just understand?
No, there was a collective disappointing sigh. Because everybody wanted to get home. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can't. yelling at this guy. He's going to say, "Oh, okay, the U.S. government says, yeah, you can fly on this plane."
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Wow.
yeah. So I drove from Manchester. I was living in Lincoln at the time, so I drove from Manchester to Lincoln, 27 hours.
It's a long time to think.
Oh, it's a long time to think. Yeah, that's a long.
And listening to the radio, probably reports are coming in.
So here was there's a lot of things that was crazy about it, but I wanted to not think about it for a while, and I wanted to not listen to the news for a while. So I'm driving home on a Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's fall. Let's do some college football.
Yeah.
Remember they canceled all the football games?
Yeah.
I remember listening to like a high school game from Ohio.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
Just to hear something.
Yeah, just to hear something.
Other than news.
Other than news, yeah.
Because no matter what station you had on,
That's all
they would be talking about.
That's all anybody was talking about.
It was wall to wall.
Yeah.
And if you played music, there was no way you were stopping for a Britney Spears song.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I mean, everybody dropped programming and everybody was full 24/7 news.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was...
And for people that
yeah.
weren't there, like us sitting in just could not get enough of the TV coverage 24/7. It was like if you slept for a couple of hours, you were right back up watching TV to get more.
I recorded everything. Did you record
I did.
everything?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still have the stupid tapes. You know, it's like...
Yeah.
You can throw those away. It's just YouTube now.
I know there is. I found them the other day. Remember when I brought the stupid?
Are you saying you too?
YouTube. It's an online video
YouTube?
site. Rob.
What?
I'll send you a link. I'll share it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the stupid tapes. I found them when I came across. Well, it's a long story, but somebody needed a VCR because they had a game that's only on tape.
Yeah.
They wanted to watch it. There's nowhere else. Okay, fine. So I have a VCR with a remote. Batteries have probably exploded in it. But anyway, I was digging through, and there's a box of tapes that I had. Yes, I'll get rid of those. Don't worry. Jeez. Anyway,
Did you want to get as far away from? I know you didn't want to think about it for a while, but were you when you got back home?
Yeah.
As obsessed with what was going on, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So somewhere, I made the decision that I was going to make Matt and Jason's dream come true. I was going to get them to a NASCAR race, and I was going to get them.
Well,
I'm sure
that was
because-
the son, Dolls kids.
Yeah.
because at the your last conversation, your whole intention was to get him those
Yeah,
tickets,
we were
and
gonna
for
get
all
together
you
and-
knew,
yeah.
he'd talk to his son.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And so much you're just trying to process things because
Yeah.
that's the last thing that should have been on your mind.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But
Oh, I
that's
would
how
have.
our
That's what I would have
minds-
done. I would have gone to the hotel and called my kid right away and said,
100%.
"So what's good? Is that what happened? Did his kid know?"
I did not have that conversation.
You didn't?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
How he found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. 15
So
years old.
you want to get home. That was the first goal.
Yep.
I wanted to see my kids were little. My son John was just born in January of that year. So
Wow.
And Abigail, they're only 16, 17 months apart. So I wanted to see them. That's what you're talking about when you're alone with your thoughts. Standing there in the balcony of my hotel, looking at Ground Zero,
Wondering if
I'm
you're going to get out of there.
Yeah, I just want to see my kids again. That's all I wanted. So once we kind of got home and started to spend time with the family again, and then it really started to resonate that this is. All of these things that happened. I wasn't supposed to be in that meeting in New York City. Why didn't one more person in Lincoln, Nebraska volunteer to get off the flight so I could keep my original schedule? Why did Jason wasn't even supposed to be flying that week? He switched flight weeks, and all these things. Why couldn't I get rid of those last two tickets?
Yeah.
So once you start looking, you start putting those pieces of the puzzle together, once that puzzle is completed, I was put there to make sure that this happens.
Yes.
It may seem like random,
Amazing.
just happenstance on things, but it's all orchestrated. It's all
Everything,
scripted.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And there's
Yeah.
so many other little things that took place, just crazy things. So, so we did it. I made it my mission. I was going to get Matt to the race, and so it's funny because the email that I sent to John Edwards, who is Jeff Gordon's PR guy, I asked him for a 5 to 10 minute meeting the Saturday after the final practice before the race on Sunday.
See, that's a whole nother chapter for people that are, kind of following along here. Because it's just getting the tickets to the kid
Is
and
one
making
thing.
sure he went to the race.
Yeah.
You went that next step because you knew about the connection.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, I got to see if I can't possibly.
Yeah.
And then at the time, Jeff Gordon was huge.
Oh, he was the Michael
He
Jordan
was
of
a
racing at the time.
Megastar.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
I didn't. And I didn't have like a secret email address. I didn't. Even though Marty Smith, who's covers college football for ESPN now,
ESPN.
yeah, he was covering NASCAR for ESPN at the time. Which, by the way, read his book. It's unbelievably.
What's
good.
it called?
I will tell you when I think of it in a second.
I'll Google it for you.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Marty and I had a connection. I don't even remember how Marty and I got started. So I kind of got the story. I sent him. I called Marty, and I'm like, "Hey, I've got this story that I think that we probably need to do something." And I was asking him for help.
Right.
And he's like, "I'm going to put it up on NASCAR.com." He did an interview with me. Put it up there. Sent an email. I sent a letter to Sandy Dahl, Jason's widow, because
How did that first contact happen? I mean, she knew obviously at that point.
So I tell you how dumb I really am. Okay. So I started working on this whole thing with NASCAR, and I'm jumping around, but Jeff Gordon had said yes, and so I'll come back to that. And it was all set up. Everything was good to go. I was talking to Jeff's PR people, the travel department. They were like, hey, we're going to fly the jet out. The whole thing. NASCAR waived the rules so that the kid can be under 18.
Wow, that's cool.
I mean, it was all set up. And they're like, so is Matt's mom on board with this? Do you think they want to put him on a plane right away? I'm like, I guess I really didn't think about that.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
I know it.
So then I think, well, I'll just find their phone number and I'll give them a call. Well, of course they disconnected their phones because they didn't want every media in the world.
Right.
So so I even called United. I'll tell you how dumb I really am. I'm like, hey, my name is Rob Quillen. I sat next to Jason Dahl. Could I get his wife's phone number?
Well, sure. Hold on there.
They're like,
right back.
oh, it's like Quillen? Q-U-I? Oh, yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, hold on.
Let me get you hooked up here.
They're like, thanks for calling. And I'm like, son
my
of a-
God. So everything's all lined up.
And
They don't know anything
they
about
had
it yet.
No clue. So I had no choice but I FedExed them a letter. I found their address and I FedExed them a letter. So I FedEx it, and kind of like you were saying, I'm tracking this thing, every 5 minutes. What do you mean it's still in Des Moines? What's going on?
Right. What?
When's the bus leave? Come on, guys. Get that package moving.
So next day it showed it was delivered, and I'm sitting by my phone thinking she's going to call me at any point.
Yeah.
She doesn't call. And I'm like, that's what I asked my wife. I said, should I have done that? Should I have reached? I changed the roles around. I said, if it was the other way around, and I was killed on a flight or whatever, would you want to hear from the last person I spoke with? And she was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And I'm like, she goes, especially if you spoke about family and especially since you made plans.
Right, in this situation, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't hear from Sandy the day that the letter got delivered, and I was like, oh, I really messed this up.
It had to absolutely set her back on her heels, though.
The day that it got delivered was the day of the memorial service. So then I'm thinking, man, I'm pretty narcissistic. I'm pretty narcissistic.
Right? Other things going on.
Yeah. So then some of the media started to pick up on it because I didn't know how at the beginning how to get in front of Jeff Gordon. So I started doing some interviews and so the media started picking up. So the phone was just ringing. We want to do a story.
And this is over how many days?
This was probably a week after 9/11.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and the media was just looking for anything positive. Mm-hmm. Anything positive would come out of there. And actually, is it KLKN in Lincoln?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were the first people to do the interview.
Good for them.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they put the story out there, and then it got picked up nationally. I'll never forget the first phone calls. Because getting some local stuff. The World Herald did a story, some other stuff. I got a phone call from Blair Kirchhoff at the Kansas City Star, who actually wrote the back of my book.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do a story on it. So they came up from Kansas City. And then once he did the story, it got really, really. I remember waking up 6:30 Sunday morning after the Kansas City Star put the story. I was in the cover of the Kansas City Star, and it was NBC. Oh. And they're like, hey, we want you to be on the Today Show. And I'm like, holy cow, this is going to be big. So the day that I got that, I got a phone call from Sandy. And I was tired of answering the phone because all this media was calling. And I answer the phone, I go, hello. And she goes, hey, Rob, it's Sandy Dahl. And both of us just immediately started crying,
Right.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, I got your letter. She goes, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever read.
Oh my God.
She goes, I'm very sorry. She goes, yesterday was a memorial service. Sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Please stop.
Yeah. So it just kind of worked out from there. And as we got closer, all the plans got finalized. So Jeff Gordon flew out his jet. The family lived in Colorado. Picked the family up, took them down to Kansas City. Spent time with them Saturday night for a little bit, I think, and then my wife and I got to meet Jeff and Brooke at the time. So
That's
then,
awesome.
yeah. So then the next day, Jeff took Matt to the driver's meeting, took him to church, spent about an hour and a half with him one-on-one. Like I said, NASCAR waived the rules so a kid under 18 could be in the garage, which is no longer a rule anymore. And then Jeff Gordon's pit crew put a special seat up on the pit box so that Matt could watch the race.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
incredible.
Yeah. And then, at some point when Jeff Gordon knew that he was going to win the race, he won the race, came across the finish line, took the checkered flag. He dedicated the race win to Matt. And so it just,
Wow.
yeah. So it was, that was 19 days after 9/11,
Yeah.
so it was
Everybody was looking for any distraction.
anything positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything positive.
Yeah, and it was the most red, white, and blue time, I think.
Oh.
I mean, I'm just thinking of all when the Huskers, as far as everything,
Just got goosebumps.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like every sporting event, everything. It was just like, no, we're going.
We're going to move forward together.
We're moving forward.
Move
let's
forward
do
together.
this, and everybody did.
The other piece about that, and this is, I think about this a lot because our country is so divided right now. If it's politics, if it's whatever the issue is, we're so divided right now. And I think about, the days and the weeks and the months after 9/11. Remember how everybody was just one?
Yeah.
Everybody was helping everybody else. There was no anger. There was no. It was just. It
really was.
We were such a I don't even know the right words. We were such a country that was together, and everybody wanted to help everybody, and we've forgotten that for some reason.
I just don't know if we would be in that same spot again if something like that
No.
happened. I don't think it would be like that.
I think
again.
there's an immediate judgment to
Sadly.
say, what side are you on? Yes. Whose fault is it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, instead of how can we help?
How can we help? I remember going back to New York City a few months after, and I remember getting in a cab at JFK, and I was talking to this cab, and I go, "What's New York City like? A handful of months after 9/11?" And this is New York City, and this is a cabbie. He goes, "Everybody still likes each other." And I'm like, "Holy cow! This is New York City, the most angry
Yeah.
city in the world, right?"
Right?
So, yeah.
Everybody yells at everybody.
Yeah.
Honk their horns,
Yeah.
flips them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, totally. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
That's all. It gives me goosebumps. Okay, so
Yeah.
Never Settle.
Okay.
Yes,
is the name of the
that's
book.
it.
Never Settle
yeah,
by Marty Smith.
Yeah,
That's the name of the
fantastic,
book.
fantastic
Okay.
read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's such a.
So, Rob, if an organization, church, whatever school wants you to come out and speak, talk about whatever,
Yeah.
how do they get hold of you?
So my website is actually being rebuilt right now because we're retooling it for the new book. But certainly, just get a hold of me on Twitter at is it _ Rob Quillen?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? He looks at me. What? Who? What?
I never tweet myself.
I know. I have to. Honestly, I'm the same way. I'm like, what is that? Is it that other? The other? That other JT? That's what I can't
Yeah.
remember what it is.
Yeah, so it's funny because there's a guy in San Diego who's a drummer for a rock band out there. Same name, Rob Quillen.
Oh, so he got your life. and
Yeah.
He wanted to be in a rock band.
And so,
Right?
yeah, exactly.
Dang
And
it. Rob is in a fucking rock
And I'm like, son of a.
That's right. Dang it.
So when we
It is _ Rob Quillen.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you can just email me at robquillen@robquillen@robquillen.com. And then to be in full disclosure, I hate the business side of that. So I have agents that do all the contracts and negotiations, all that stuff. So
I don't blame you one bit.
yeah, I want to be the rock star. I want to be the guy that comes in town. I want to sing my songs, and I want to go. I want to go on to the next stage. Right.
Right. I hear you.
I'm with you, man. I'm
So
with you.
my point to that guy that's in San Diego.
Yeah.
So everybody, they were just doing Rob Quillen on the Twitter site, right? They weren't doing the _. So this guy follows me, and I'm like, am I following myself? It says
Right.
Rob
What's
Quillen
going
is
on?
following.
This is
How
the
many-
universe.
How many beers did I have last night?
Did I create another account?
So he sends me a direct message and he goes, I don't know who you are. He goes, but you're getting a lot of tweets. I'm getting a lot of your tweets, and he goes, feel free to read through my timeline.
Oh my god! You know what's funny? You've met Clay Anderson.
Yes, great
And
guy.
I love him to death. And he's a former Ashland. Well, he's from Ashland. I
Yeah.
just have to throw that out
Yeah.
there because that's my connection.
Yeah.
But there's a Clayton Anderson at
it-
Clayton Anderson.
Isn't he
And
a
he's
country
the singer.
singer? Yeah.
Yeah. And so Clayton Anderson was constantly getting tweeted at.
Oh.
And he's like, dude, I'm not an astronaut. He just kept, and then by the same token, when people find out Clay's name, they're like, oh, there's this other guy tweeted about me
Yeah.
by mistake.
Yeah.
And then they followed each other.
Yeah.
Then they met.
I did see
And
that.
he got to go. First off, he brought Clayton Anderson, the singer, to Houston.
Yes.
Took him on talk about the Rockstar tour of NASA,
It's pretty awesome.
and then Clayton invited our Clayton,
Yeah.
the astronaut,
Yeah.
to Nashville, And he went through the whole thing of writing a song, and he got to sit in the studio. And
Very cool.
And Clay is a singer himself,
yeah.
a very accomplished singer, and so he got to do some stuff. And apparently, I know there's a single out there somewhere.
Oh, that
he
is great.
He sang on.
That is
with
fantastic.
His, I don't know, doppelganger, whatever he is.
That is
Clayton,
awesome.
Clayton
name
Anderson.
buddy?
Yeah, right. His name buddy. That's
Name
it.
neighbor.
Yeah.
Name neighbor.
So kind of cool.
That is cool.
But
I love Clay. He's
I
good.
know,
He's
I
a good
do
man.
too.
I
do
went out
too.
when he put his first book out. Was it The Ordinary Spaceman?
Yes.
Yes. So he did a book signing out at the Sac Museum on the interstate. And, it's very fun signing books. It's very fun when you have a big, long line of people. It's very fun, and people want to talk to you. That part is cool. And I wanted to spend time with Clay afterwards. I'd never met him before, but, we exchange. We share an agent.
Oh, neat.
And,
okay.
So I purposely waited to be the last person in line.
How long did that take?
Like 3.5 hours. So
I really want to meet this dude.
yeah, I'm like, that's cool. All right, so you went in space. What else?
Is there another reason why I should?
So inside the Sac Museum, there they constantly show movies. There's a movie theater inside there. I watched the same movie like 3 times. I'm like, all
my
right,
goodness.
this is about the B-52. Let me guess.
Do you need me to narrate this? I'm gonna.
And I was the only one in the movie theater. And I'm like, oh,
They didn't call the Secret Service or
rock
anything, right?
bottom. Rock bottom is where I'm at right now.
It's like security. We have a guy in the theater.
Yeah, he won't leave. He will not leave.
He won't leave
Yeah.
until the last person goes through.
Yeah, but that was cool. It was very cool to get to hang out with him.
Oh my God. So, all right. So the race this weekend. Did you
Yes.
enjoy watching
Bristol?
Bristol
Was amazing.
I posted some about it. It's been 10 years since I'd been there.
I saw your pictures. First of all, you grew up in the Suites.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know, no big
Yeah.
Yeah, no big deal.
.com.
Yeah.
I seriously, it was a former boss.
Yeah.
That was working. He was running the TV stations out there, and so he set up everything. It was like I came in. I had a hotel room.
Yeah.
I had transportation. I had everything was taken care of, and I got a roof pass.
Nice.
And so it was me and 4 ESPN camera guys up on top of the roof,
Nice.
and I got to take pictures up there. And,
Nice.
And we were talking about looking at the setup with all the rigs lined up
Yes.
in the infield. They don't look the same as they did
No,
back then.
no.
And I said, yeah, very satisfying to your OCD.
Oh, yeah.
The way they're all lined up perfectly.
Within an inch.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. It's
So
awesome.
do you ever be in the garage area? They used to practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then they had 2 or 3 different days of qualifying. Anyway, I was in Phoenix one time, and I had passed. This is well before the 9/11 stuff, and so the garage opens up at 6 a.m. Not 5:59, not 6:01. It's 5:50 or it's 6.
6. Ding.
And they'll make an announcement. The garage is now open. At least they used to anyway. And in unison, all of the haulers' trailers come down. And it was like the most beautiful thing
And
I've
it
ever
just gives
seen.
you shivers,
Yeah.
man. That was the first time I got to see the parade.
Yes.
When they roll into town on
Into Bristol,
Thursday,
yeah.
and they come in, and it was nighttime,
Yeah.
and the lights,
Yes.
and the trailers are all like they look like they all just got painted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All lit up like Christmas trees.
Oh,
First
my-
thing when you said that, I think a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of was the beginning of Lightning McQueen Cars. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember.
I remember.
when they all came in.
Kind
think
of the
talking to
same.
each other.
Right?
So awesome.
When I first said it, he looked at me funny. I said, and seeing all the haulers
Yeah.
together, and he's thinking like ditches. It's
Yeah.
no, not those kind of haulers. Not,
No,
not like
very different.
the
Yeah.
haulers,
Yeah.
trucks
and trailers.
Oh my God, yeah. So cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
Bristol's one of the few tracks I have not been to. I've flown over it, but I've not been to
gotta be
Bristol.
interesting
Yeah,
to
it was
see
it
it,
was
yeah.
very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty
the
cool
racing this
place.
weekend at Bristol was unreal. I thought the truck race Thursday night was fantastic. I thought the Xfinity race on Friday night was good.
It's just
This-
nice to see new names.
Yes,
But Sunday was heartbreaking.
Oh,
Or Saturday night, I guess.
Saturday night. I've told people this since when Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl, he doesn't say, "Hey, I'm really sorry, Peyton Manning. I'm really sorry I beat your team." Or when somebody wins the World Series, they don't go, "Oh, I'm really sorry that we beat."
Yeah.
When Denny Hamlin got out of his car, and the first thing he said was, "I am so sorry to Matt."
But he still had he was a professional. I mean, that's what he's paid to do is to win.
To win, yeah, yeah.
And he still took it from him
Yeah.
right out, took that sandwich right out of his mouth.
That's exactly.
What you got to do?
So I was like, oh my God, that was kind of emotional then. And then, of course, they stick a microphone in Matt's face, and he's trying not to cry.
Matt DiBenedetto.
Yes, Matty
which-
D.
Yes, and a lot of when he first got on the scene, nobody could say his name.
Nope.
It was hilarious.
He grew up not too far from where I grew up. Out
No
in
kidding.
Northern California.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was emotional.
Oh my goodness. And so then I was like, My eyes are sweating.
Yeah. I'm watching NASCAR.
I'm drinking beer, watching NASCAR. This is there should not be. There's no
There's
crying,
no crying
in
in
NASCAR. So, yeah, I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, my
and then,
God, yeah.
then you see all the drivers come up and congratulate Matt. I was like, oh my.
He stayed for hours after the race.
I saw that. Yeah.
Signing autographs, and he
That's
had
cool.
tons of people
Yeah.
that were fans
Yeah.
or that wanted to be
Just-
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, where does he end up?
So
I don't know where he.
I don't know. Yeah, he had to. He's in a position of losing his ride.
Yeah, he
and
announced it
he's-
Wednesday that he's definitely out. Yeah.
Can he just go get a new whip?
I don't think it works that way.
That's unfortunate.
That's nice try.
He's
Pat.
out there spray painting a car.
Yeah.
Can I get in?
Do you mind?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Oh my God, Rob! Thank you so much
No
for coming
worries.
on our
Anytime.
podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
This episode, I guess, our halfway point.
Yes.
That's
So
right.
you can consider yourself that guy.
Put that in my Twitter handle. I was
Yeah.
a halfway point for Pat and JT.
That's right.
Yay!
Yes, you were. We'll tag that.
New hashtag.
That's
awesome.
right.
But in the one other thing too, we wanted to throw into is Kugler Vision. I want to thank them for being a supporter of our podcast. They've been with us almost since the beginning, for Pete's sake. And they've got a great promotion still going on throughout the month of August. You get yourself entered real simply. You don't have to do anything, as a matter of fact. Get on their website at kuglervision.com, sign up for the consultation, and then go in and have the consultation. That's where you're going to find out exactly where you are with your eyes if you're trying to ditch the glasses or get rid of the contacts. And they'll tell you, here's all this battery of tests, and we are on the leading edge of everything. And here's everything we can tell you about your eyes. And here's some ideas on what you can do. But the minute you have that consultation, you're automatically entered in the drawing.
That's right. And that is, if you win, August 30th is when they're giving it away. $250 you can donate in school supplies to your favorite school or teacher. Also, another $100 gift card, Visa card for them to spend on whatever. And then
Right.
you get $150 at the mark to do whatever you want with. It's great.
$250 prize package.
Yeah.
It's stuffed within that extra 100 in case you need extra things.
Yeah,
I mean, that's awesome.
and then when you are signing up for your consultation, just say you heard it on the Pat and JT podcast.
Please do.
We appreciate it. They appreciate it. Rob, thank you very much.
Anytime.
We appreciate it, buddy. It's Pat and JT podcast halfway through.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Parkville Media Production.